Hello, beautiful souls. I am so excited to be offering this incredible transit talk with one of my beautiful, beautiful friends, Katie. I hope that you are loving the series so far and getting around to listen to all the different astrologers and listening to them riff on a really cool 2022 transit that they love. So today we're in for a treat because this is a bit of a juicy transit. This is a bit juicy, it's a bit delicious, it's a bit magical, but there's also some underlying stuff. And Katie's a little queen of looking back and seeing where all of the things were degrees wise, and she weaves a really beautiful story. And it's quite a personal transit for Katie as well. So when it lands like that personally for us, it's great to be able to share that as well. So let me introduce Katie and firstly ask, what drew you to astrology? So welcome, Katie. And yeah, I'm going to ask all the astrologers the same question. So what drew you to astrology? What's the juice? Let us know.
Sure. So thank you so much for having me, Tiarnie. It's such an honor to be on this panel. I'm very excited, and especially to be speaking about something as divine and magical as Jupiter Neptune. I'm very excited to get into that. But for those of you that don't know me, I'm Katie, and I am the owner, teacher, creator of Temple of Cosmic Astrology, which is an online astrology school. I teach various courses. Teaching is my passion. As much as I love readings and doing one-on-one work with clients, what really sparks me is being able to take you deeper, being able to get super nerdy with you, which is what I'm going to try and do today in a very succinct, 15-20 minute talk. We'll see if I can reel that in. Tiarnie and I are kind of known for our tangents, but we're really going to be, super on point today for you guys.
Yes.
So what drew me to astrology? I started reading astrology books when I was about 9. I remember my mum had some kind of astrology sex love book on the shelf, and I was snooping around, a few years earlier than I should have been. But I remember reading that I was an Aquarius, and I was like, what's this? I'm intrigued. I need to know more. And I was always kind of that kid that always had my pockets full of rocks and crystals, and always going to the fairy shop or the crystal shop. And so it kind of just really was always there for me. And it was a very private kind of journey in my teens. I was always just delving and researching. And it wasn't until my early 20s that I really started to step into this more. And I started teaching workshops and things like that. But yeah, I just feel like astrology has always been me. It's always been there. And so it's such a privilege and an honor to be able to then share, I guess, parts of me with you, and doing that in a way that can help you develop your own self and evolve and understand your own part in the cosmos. That's the magic of it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And yeah, it's always interesting because me and Katie both started astrology when we were 9, and it's not too many people you hear that it's just happens to be that age. And interestingly, like tiny tangent, like transit Uranus was going through my 3rd house when I was that age, so it just makes sense. So it's nice to look at where the transit of Uranus was going through, or what was maybe in the 3rd house to find out sort of where that landing point was. There's many different landing points of when you can become interested in astrology, of course, but I'd been saying 9 for a long time, and then I met Katie, and we were just like, we just speak each other's language, and we literally do nothing but talk about astrology when we're together. Like there's literally nothing else to talk about. Like that's it. And we lose 3 hours and we go, oh, I'm just busting to pee. And then all of a sudden we just need to pee. And that's the whole reason. Like, and there's 3 hours gone. So, it's such an honor to have Katie here. As much as she's excited to be here on this panel, I'm super excited to have Katie here because she is a wealth of information and a wealth of knowledge and embodies astrology. And like I said, probably nearly one of the only people I can talk to like this. Is very few in my life that it's just constant, and we just understand it so well. So you're all in for this amazing treat, and I'm going to let Katie take it away as she talks about the Neptune Jupiter conjunction in Pisces. So she's going to give you the degrees, and she's going to talk all about that. So get your pens and paper ready, get your chart out. This is what you want to do, and grab a cuppa and take it away, Katie. Take away this magicness. I've got my pen and paper ready too. Don't you worry about that. So
perfect. Thank you. So Yeah, one of the signature aspects of 2022 is the upcoming conjunction between Jupiter and Neptune. And this is happening at 23 degrees of Pisces. And the thing that is getting astrologers really excited, revved up, curious, already talking about this in 2021, is the fact that Jupiter and Neptune are both co-rulers of Pisces. So both of these planets are accentuating the magic that is already this transit, because they're both in their home sign. Neptune is, of course, the modern ruler. Jupiter is the traditional ruler. And so this is really building into something really beautiful and something special. I'm trying to kind of broach, to be honest, there's so many things, right? So don't mind me, like I'm kind of just like, my brain is just like computing, where am I going to go with this? But the thing I really just want to begin with this for you is, really guiding you to how to find this magic with this transit, right? Because I think that when we start to talk about collective astrology, it's very easy to be like, oh, this is going to happen and that's going to happen. But how do we personalize it? And that's kind of what I want to bring to the table for you guys watching this, because there's going to be a whole ton of information out there, articles, other videos that are just talking about this in general. But how can we personalize this? So you want to be looking for your Pisces house. This is what is being lit up or activated by this transit. So the transit is exact on the 12th of April in 2022 at 23 degrees of Pisces. Now, with slower moving planets, we actually have, a sort of a longer term like energy when we're sort of enveloped in this. And that is actually going to be from the 7th of April right up until the 17th of April, because this is when they're meeting within a degree of each other, but it will exact on the 12th of April. So really like that kind of, mid part of April is when you're really going to be in this. And, Tiarnie and I were kind of just chatting a little bit before and, kind of going over what we'd speak about. And she actually pointed out something really amazing to me that I want to share with you, which is during this kind of week-long period, 10-day period, specifically, again, I wrote my notes, from the 8th to the 10th, the moon is going to be in Cancer at that time. So the moon is going to actually be creating this beautiful grand trine between the moon, Neptune and Jupiter in Pisces, and also the south node in Scorpio. And if I were sort of to describe another kind of astrological energy that sort of vibrates at a similar frequency of Neptune and Jupiter in conjunction, it would be this grand water trine, because this is like pure magic, intuition, soulful, deep, revelatory energy. And so this whole week, I don't know, I'm just kind of like blown away by it, to be completely honest, because when I started to join the dots, I was like, my gosh, like this is going to be this portal period that is going to open us up to something that is so needed. I think that 2021 has really, and 2020, and pretty much like any year before that, right? The last few years have kind of just been a bit of a funky journey. But this is the kind of transit that we've all been hoping for. This is just this pure, aligned, magical, beautiful, soulful energy that we are yearning for, because this fixed energy, especially in 2021, has been really hard to deal with. And so, that has been between your Taurus, your Aquarius houses. It's been very uncomfortable, but now this Pisces energy is coming in and softening. And so my encouragement to you is to look at your Pisces house and look at where you can be softer, where you can actually tune into yourself more. I think that with a lot of the external chaos that's been happening, it's been very easy to lose ourselves in that noise. And so I think this is such a beautiful return to self aspect and transit that's happening in 2022. The other thing with that I wanted to touch on before I time travel with you guys a bit is that the new moon in Pisces this year in 2021, so it was on the 13th of March, and that new moon was at exactly the same degree that this conjunction is happening at in April of 2022. So you know, have a look at what was happening for you in that March kind of period, because something was stirring, something was revealing itself to you, and it was subtle. It was easy to not quite pick up on that with the noise of everything else happening. But I just wanted to illuminate that for you, because in my own kind of, you know, research and study of what is coming with this, I've realized that there was this magic that's been present for me all of this year. I just wasn't quite able to see it. And by kind of pinpointing these dates, it's revealing to me now, like, okay, as you know, an Aquarius sun is someone with lots of fixed energy getting really wrapped up in this fixed square, and the chaos and the ultimately the transformation and healing through that. But there has been this beautiful, subtle, dreamy like energy happening here, and we're about to be able to harness that. And again, the point that you want to be looking for is 23 degrees Pisces. But if you have any planets at 23 degrees, really of the entire zodiac, you're going to be hit by this. But I would say mostly the water signs, and of course having that conjunction. So any Pisces planets around there, those planets are going to be what we say in astrology is like they're going to be up for you, right? So you need to look at what those planets are and the themes and the archetypes of those planets to understand, again, how it will be more personalized for you. But the main thing that I really kind of want to add in as a little note here is that it's not all mysticism and spirituality and beauty and the arts. It's all of these things, of course, but it can have a deeper, more, I don't want to say like sinister per se, that's probably a bit of an extreme word, but like Neptune is very illusory, right? It's not always what it seems. And Jupiter in astrology expands what it touches, right? So Jupiter transits can be complete bliss, you know, orgasmic kind of energy, or depending on what it's forming a conjunction or aspect with, it can be like the pits of hell, right? Jupiter is a benefic, but it, with the very nature of Jupiter, is to just kind of expand, exacerbate. And so that doesn't always mean that it comes with good intentions. And that's something to be very mindful of here. Again, more on a collective space, but this can happen on a personal level too. And it's like, be really mindful of what you think you are connecting with or what you think you are aligning with, because what is presenting itself may not necessarily be in its full truth. And so again, look back at, you know, February, March this year, because maybe something that you thought was something by April of next year is nothing of the sort. And that's not to put you into fear or like, oh my God, you know, like put you into guilt of like, why did I think that or do that? Or like, you know, you don't want to go into that kind of thinking, but it's just so important to check yourself, right? Especially we have the South Node in Sagittarius taking us through to the end of 2021. And, you know, the theme of that South Node is checking your beliefs, because the more you are clinging on to beliefs that maybe are no longer, you know, upholding a vision of what you want for yourself, right? Jupiter, Neptune in Pisces is visions. You need to be able to cut that tie. And I think what is happening is people are afraid and people don't know what's happening. And so when human beings are in that kind of energy, we cling on to what we know. And what we know is not always what we think we know, right? That's just life. And so we need to be open enough to be able to hear another's perspective. We need to be, you know, open enough to change our perspective upon new information. And that's just a little kind of thing I wanted to leave you guys with, because, you know, Tiarnie and I actually talk about that a lot in a video we made together a week or so ago on fixed planets. I really encourage you to take a listen to that if what I just sort of said resonated with you around, you know, letting go of these beliefs and such things, because the opposite side of the coin of this Jupiter Neptune energy in April is that it could be exacerbating a lot of the conflict and chaos that is already present at this time. You know, as much as I'm here about like being a cosmic astrologer and I love these magical kind of transits, we're living in hard, harsh times. And so that energy may not always translate. It depends on your own perception, perspective, and understanding, and your ability to kind of really just be conscious, and be open and willing to transcend what may be holding you in a space of something that you actually don't necessarily want to be aligned with anymore. So time traveling. I love looking back at transits, you know, when they last happened, because astrology is just cycles, really. This is why history often repeats itself. And the last time we had this conjunction was in 2009. So we have this conjunction roughly about every 13 years. And it happened in Aquarius, in the late degrees of Aquarius, but it was around, again, my dates, July and September of 2009. And what I found fascinating about this is that at that period of time, Uranus was in Pisces. And guess what degree it was actually at when we had these conjunctions in Aquarius? It was at 22 Pisces. So we know that Uranus is innovation. Uranus is progressiveness. Uranus is astrology. Uranus is the cosmos. And so I think it's beautiful to see that Uranus was at this same point in the charts, you know, back 12, 13 years ago, really leading the way of where we are now. And this is why I think, you know, Tiarnie kind of touched on just looking at where Uranus was maybe when you first got interested in astrology. I think that's a great technique to maybe understand more about your own personal relationship with not just astrology, but with the greater cosmos and your soul self, because Uranus often comes online during very powerful, you know, astrological awakenings, I guess we could say. So I thought that was a really beautiful signature to pick up on. The last time we had this signature being activated. So, you know, again, look back at your life in 2009, you know, the July, August, September period of 2009. What was happening for you at that time? For me, that's when I actually started to teach my first workshops. You know, I think I did my first Reiki course, you know, in my early 20s. And so it's really interesting to see this kind of 12, 13-year cycle for me of where something that was like my personal passion or hobby, my curiosity, you know, what kept me up at night, as the introvert that I am, instead of, you know, being maybe a normal teenager and going out and doing things, I was home with my astro books. And seeing how that has developed and brought me to a space now where I have a school, an astrology school. So there's patterns to be found here for you around your own path of spirituality, around your own path of evolution, around your own connection to your soul. This is such a beautiful, from that space, going to allow a new path to be forged, a deeper connection with oneself in alignment with whatever house it is for you. Of course, that's going to be different for all of us. And really being able to have a deeper and inherent trust of oneself. You know, again, a lot of what we've been going through these past few months has been, you know, if anything was going to destabilize, you know, distrust, it's been the last couple of years, right? But we need to see through the illusion. And sometimes what is portrayed as something to be not trustworthy is trustworthy. And that it's often just a lot of propaganda and noise, you know, and Jupiter, Neptune to me is like propaganda, right? You know, a lot of astrologers have been talking about being really mindful of Neptune at the degrees that it's at now and the past few years, really since like 2016 up until now, the degrees that Neptune has been at historically have brought about, not just from that, of course, we need to look at the entire chart, but Neptune has been a big player in a lot of, you know, disruptive periods in history. The last time it was at these degrees in Pisces. So it's no surprise that a lot of what is coming up now is, you know, time to be facing what we were unable to face at that period of time in history, because we have evolved since then. We have, we are able to see and experience so much more. And with Pluto coming into Aquarius, my God, get ready for a completely different, a pathway and shift within humanity. So I'm going to pause that for a second, because again, I don't want to be making this super long. Tiarnie, was there any questions or anything that you kind of wanted to pose back to me, or maybe for me to go deeper? Yeah.
So awesome. Thank you so much for sharing all of that. So the couple of things that I wrote down too are any planets at 23 mutable signs as well, with this
Yes.
23-degree Jupiter Neptune. So Katie had talked about obviously the water signs, because there is that grand water trine as well. So that's going to be super activated and really activating your own chart in a huge way. But also those other mutable signs, which are Virgo, Gemini, and Sag. So if you've got, very close to 23 degrees, know that will activate that for you as well. And yeah, I just sort of, wrote that the Jupiter and Neptune, it can be exposing a big illusion, because anything with Jupiter on the front can be big, and then whatever's on, like, it could be big money, big love, big sex, could be big anything, big energy, big action. And this can be big magic, and it can be big illusion. So I think that obviously just reiterating that, and it's so fascinating again to time travel and look at what you were doing in 2009, and really, and the whole new moon in March of 2021 being at 23 Pisces. I mean, when Katie brought that up, there is something really there. I did, you had written that you'd said that there's something subtle, and I wrote that there was something subtle going on, but because of all the noise of 2021, maybe you missed it. But this is that reignition of that, like this will be a reactivation, or, so I always say in any sort of Neptunian things, like pay attention, like pay close attention to the subtleties and the nuances, because it's going to be big, but it might not be Pluto in the punch you in the face big, but it's going to be very etheric and very energetic as well. So it is really magical. I'm super excited.
It is. It is. It is. Like, if I was to say, any kind of placement that's bringing like a return to this magical energy, like, because a lot of people have been feeling disconnected, like, especially because we have, again, this noise and so many people who maybe are very good at selling an illusion, especially within the realms of spirituality. It's hard to discern what feels right anymore. And I think that this type of transit, that if you've been experiencing that, will really help you have that reignition, or that confirmation again of like what feels right to you on your path. Because I think a lot of people are trying to tell you what is right for your path. There's a lot of chaos, confusion, like, again, not to go on big tangents, but this kind of guru vibe, the fall of the guru, very important. And I think that this is going to be this week of being able to see beyond that. But if you're not conscious of this, it's very easy to stay in that. And that's kind of the angle that I wanted to bring to you guys today, is to start to get you thinking now about that. Like, you have time before this energy comes in, to really start to think about, like, who actually resonates with me, what resonates with me, what doesn't, and what am I okay to leave behind? Because the last few months of the South Node in Sagittarius are only going to accentuate that within itself, and to really bringing up this kind of mutable energy, like Tiarnie said, specifically with that transit. But, we have with the nodes in mutable signs, which other brilliant astrologers are going to speak about. I'm not going to touch on that today. I'm going to leave that to other parts of this panel. But, the nodes that have been happening and what will be coming in with the nodes has really been leading the way for what a lot has been unfolding in this time. So I hope this has been informative and insightful for you guys. I kind of just like to throw all the dates out there, and give you that opportunity to research and delve into this yourself. But yeah, you know, feel free to reach out to me, to maybe comment on this video if you have any questions around this specific transit. You know, I'd love to go deeper with those of you that are listening. Thank you.
Well, this is exciting. And I also just wanted to say that also because the South Node's being activated with this conjunction too, that this can be really illuminating this sort of the drama and the holding on to all of these things, like literally holding on to those things. And again, like I've got amazing panelists going to really unpack the nodes of 2022, which is a very exciting part of 2022. There's some really potent signatures. So you're getting quite a lot in this panel that I'm putting together. But just in this instance, this ties into the Jupiter Neptune conjunction because of the trine to the South Node. So there is flow to release, there is flow to heal, there is flow to get out of your own way and to remove yourself from the drama or the illusion or whatever that is. So if something's coming up, you know, it's actually like quite cord cutting. Like there can be a beautiful death, a beautiful ceremony, something sacred about the release of that. So it's not going to be a hard death. It's actually going to be like a beautiful passing away of something too. So that ending could be really quite transcendent at the same time, you know. So I think that there's just a little bit of juice there as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think definitely, like, if I was to say a time to be, you know, holding space for ritual and ceremony of a release of a part of oneself that, you know, has held you safe until this time but is no longer needed for the journey forwards, it is a beautiful day, a beautiful week to really be holding oneself in ceremony. Absolutely.
Yeah. And the release of trauma. I think that something really beautiful could come out of that as well, with the South Node being in Scorpio. So everyone, I hope that you have enjoyed Katie's talk, and go and click on all the rest of the links to enjoy everyone else's. So I personally want to thank Katie as not only a beautiful, beautiful friend of mine, but a really, really amazing astrologer. So thank you so much, Katie, for joining this panel.
Thank you. It was a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you, beautiful. Bye, everyone.